Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. So welcome back, of course, to Brian. We've just heard from you. Thank you so much for your thoughts. Welcome also to Anya. That's how we say your name? Anya Rogers, Director of Small and Medium Business for the UK and Ireland at Cisco, which of course needs little introduction. Andy Wilson, Senior Director of New Product Solutions at Dropbox, again, a company that will be familiar to many of us. And Besnik, oh gosh, I'm going to do this wrong. Besnik Vrellaku?
You did great.
There we go.
You did great.
It's the founder and CEO of Salesflow.io. So why don't you give us a brief description of what your business does?
Well, in short, we support, some 10,000 SMEs. So predominantly focused on B2B businesses. So we enable for them to generate leads and opportunities by using a multi-channel engine for prospecting. So we work with predominantly, sales teams and, growing startups to grow their business effectively through technology.
And talking of growing your business is growing really fast, isn't it? Just give us a quick idea of scale.
Yeah. Well, we're a team of 30 globally at the moment, but we are focused on efficiency and, with how do we grow without, looking to increase overheads and beyond. So, yeah, in short, we've grown, doubled almost, 50% year-on-year growth. And that's just, done purely, bootstrapped and efficiency and unit economics and just focusing on how do we hone down our scalability with the right technologies and so forth. So
you're a working kind of case study of how you use technology to scale without adding too much cost. So why don't we just get an idea of scale, actually, of Dropbox and Cisco and Dell in terms of how big you are as organisations? Just remind everybody. Why don't you go first?
So Dell Technologies, I think that most people will probably recognise as a PC manufacturer.
Yep.
Is that the question?
Yeah. Just remind us how many people you got.
Oh, sorry, how many people? Sorry,
Yeah.
apologies. 100,000.
Wow.
So just a small.
Anya, the same question to you.
Slightly
Cisco?
smaller. We operate with 80,000 in Cisco globally.
And Dropbox is now a giant, isn't it?
Absolutely. It may be in reach of our customers, but we're actually just over 2,000 people. So possibly smaller than you might think.
Yeah, but a household name nonetheless. So Anya, let's start with you. So this panel is all about building a technology stack. Where should these businesses start when it comes to thinking about technology?
Brian mentioned the word a number of times. It's all about scale and future-proofing your investment. So I think if we think about simplicity, flexibility and scale when you're looking into the tech stack that you're investing in, super important for everybody to think about, and I think it's integral and just something you cannot pass over is your investment in security and having a zero trust policy. Any investment would be debunked if there's a breach, right? So it's massively important that you think about your security posture and a zero trust approach around that. You think about how you're collaborating and how you're communicating. You think about where your data is residing. And I think making a simple plan and investing in tech that will grow with your business. So keep it simple to start with, but something that is address your current needs, but has flexibility to grow with you, I think are a good starting point for the approach.
And does that resonate with you, Andy?
Yeah, it really does. I mean, obviously security is at the heart of everything we do, but I think when you're approaching this kind of problem of how do I set up my startup's tech stack right from the beginning, you've got to really think about, well, how am I structuring my business? Am I going to be a predominantly in-office organisation, which is fairly unlikely nowadays? So you're thinking about, well, we're going to be remote first. And then that leads you down a number of choices. And you're always going to want to think, well, all my team then, they're going to be working out screens. How can I give them the best experience when they're working out those screens so they can get their best work done? So thinking about the kind of best of breed tools that you can put in place to make that happen. How do you collaborate? And then you want to think about some things that were actually spoken about earlier, like how do I then thoughtfully automate what I can so I can spend my time on growing my business and helping the customers more, and the things I can automate in a sensible way, we'll put those automations in. And we're not talking about like having to string together 15 different platforms on day one. We're thinking about really simple things like how can I set up my client folders so they auto tag with job numbers or the client name so that in 2 years' time when that client comes back to me, I'm saying, yeah, actually, I can find that content, I can give it to you. So really starting at the basics of automation, things like transcription as well has been mentioned earlier today. How can I use that then to create actions that I can send out to my customers really quickly? So I can be really intentional about what I'm doing with the businesses I work with, and they feel really responsive to their needs, and I'm on top of it. So that's how I kind of start thinking about what am I doing with my tech stack and how I can do that. And then from there, obviously, security is what I want to put in place. And I want to make sure I enable my team to understand exactly what our expectations are.
And I want to come back to the security point. But Besnik, before we do, just thinking, obviously, as you said, you've got a global team, 30 people, but you're growing really fast. How have you done that? What technology solutions have you put in place, besides your own, to be able to grow rapidly whilst keeping headcount quite low, which is really important in this market where talent costs more than ever before?
You know, I just think things are changing dramatically now. So what's in fashion is how we can grow a business at scale without trying to just, you know, keep hiring people to do all the manual work that a lot of solutions out there can. It's the whole purpose of software and having the right tech stack is how can you be more effective and efficient. So I think one of the key things that of many, but, you know, a few that come to mind is actually how do we have a streamlined workflow across all departments? Streamlined, so you're talking about also a single source of truth of data across our CS teams, you know, customer success, support, sales, development, and back to finance and all the figures that align to what we're trying to do effectively. So I think with that, you know, we're using tools like, I mean, I could branch out, there's 3001, but they all work together. A lot of it, what we do is we focus on how, even if there's missing pieces in your workflow, we have even custom APIs to make sure that all that data is synchronized so that if there's no cracks in our workflow, in our delivery. So, I mean, Zapier, a lot of people use it. It fills any gaps that ultimately you want. But ultimately, we also have, you know, Amazon Web Services, very simple, but we create custom models to be able to store data correctly. So then it resyncs. Or we use things like Segment, like for single source of data. So you send it only to Segment that allows you to then transfer all the data to all other apps, right? Because you can, we're talking about CRMs. I think a lot of people here know what CRMs are and beyond. But
does everyone know what CRMs are? Okay, good.
I'm glad.
Can you explain, just for anybody who doesn't, please?
Well, you know, customer relationship management platforms are the central piece to your contacts, to your customers, to your repository of data that you have about your customers overall, right? Ultimately, everything's centralized around your customers. So I think it's important that you take it really seriously as opposed to just a sales hub. Actually, it's a hub of understanding your customers to then use that as a feedback loop for the future, whether it's product or improving quality of your customer service, perhaps. So it's really around that. You know, obviously for us, we've used HubSpot over time, for instance, and we kept it. I know there's many new tools that come out, but HubSpot's done well in regards to us using it for scale.
Mm-hmm. And you know that saying, nobody gets fired for buying IBM. And, you know, I feel like everyone's got skin in this game because you're going to say, yeah, go for the disruptors, whereas these guys might say, go for the trusted incumbents. But is there any value in trying something, you know, a smaller company that's still scaling? Perhaps it's a bit less well known because it's cheaper, frankly?
Oh, you know, it's my favorite. I mean, that's like the biggest joy of you know, being, you know, a founder of a business is that it's you're playing with gadgets of new technologies, basically. You know, for instance, you know, I was in San Francisco in June, a AI summit, for instance, and I want to be involved in the front runners of new trending technologies and how else we can scale effectively, for instance. And so there's many tools, and I think it's really important that you can use a lot of this new technologies as a competitive advantage that your competitors might not even have because you're doing something better. Half the cost, maybe you can give more discounts because your margins still remain the same, for instance. So absolutely, I think it's actually important for SMEs to do it because you can have the edge over conglomerates.
But to do it safely, I guess, is the key point. Anya, returning to the theme of the panel, where do you see smaller businesses go wrong when they're building their tech stacks? What's the mistake they most commonly make?
I think it's over-complex investment in the start. I think, again, when we look at what are you trying to achieve, is your tech stack going to be your differentiator to your business, or is it going to be the enabler? right? We know it's not a commodity. We know it's there to enable new markets, delivering new ways of communicating and collaborating with your customers. So I think that simplicity. I think investment, while being bold, again, in new age technology is brave. You don't want to make an investment that you have to rip and replace. So you need to make sure that you're making those sensible choices that make sense to accessing the markets and delivering for your customers, but also that it has integration capabilities and those APIs can integrate in the background for future. So it really is about taking that advice and not doing it alone. I mean, there's a lot of bravery in the SME community, but there's massive amount of resource available to you outside of your businesses in the managed service providers or even direct with vendors or communities like this. So take the advice on what are you trying to achieve? What's the desired outcome? What resources have you got available to you? Start simple. Connectivity, number one. Security, number two. Collaboration, number three. And obviously where you reside your data and everything around that. But yeah, I think overcomplexing and overthinking the situation at the start can be a real detrimental to SMBs.
And I can see you nodding along, Brian. Do you agree? Because it's a fine line, isn't it, between taking risk, like making a decision, and making the wrong one.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think that the theme that you can hear throughout is this industry's changing, the world is changing at a faster rate, so you have to be as open. That open stack technology has to be there. If it's closed, then you're just, as Anya said, like it's making it really difficult for the things that you don't really know what's going to happen in the future. The over-complex, keep it simple, keep it open, and keep it scalable.
And returning to the theme of security then, Andy, I'll come to you on this. I think there's definitely is a feeling perhaps amongst some small businesses, if you take a really small business, that it's not something they need to worry about. Perhaps it's a high street florist, perhaps it's a high street bakery, etc. Oh, that's not something I need to worry about. I'm not a bank. No one's going to try and hack me. But that is wrong, isn't it?
It is, because you immediately become a target for that same reason. And those are exactly the kind of businesses that scammers will look to exploit, because of exactly that reason, is that perhaps people aren't always thinking about this as the first thing they need to do. If you're starting a florist, you don't often think the first thing I need to do is secure my tech stack. You worry about building a florist business. But the reality is that for every business everywhere now, that is what we have to do. And we have to be really intentional about how we think those things through. And it means a few things. It means when you set up every part of your new business, when you're setting it up and choosing the tools that you're choosing, you need to make sure, firstly, that the team that you work with really understands how to enable all the security features of this and what's expected of me in my role. You can't just expect everybody to know everything on day zero. So that means like educating your team on what's acceptable and making sure that you're using the right controls on those platforms. So simple things like multi-factor authentication being turned on by default. Talking about what your password policies are. These are quite boring things, but these are the things that are going to protect your businesses when you put them into action and make them happen. Then you need to think, okay, well, how am I going to be sharing? We talked about sharing and the integration is really important. How am I going to be sharing and what's my policy for that? So am I going to say, hey, within the company we can share quite flexibly, but maybe I'm going to be taking investment and I need to make sure that I have a virtual data room like that. And there's small business tools like DocSend that are available that can help you like that, to really have that relationship with investors, or if you're being acquired, again, with that acquiring business. So thinking about how you want to structure your data and your sharing will then determine the kinds of tools and controls that you'll have there. If you're working on kind of intellectual property sensitive things, maybe you need to have a lot of encryption running on your business. So the tools that you'll choose might, look out for those things. And as you scale your business, you might just be one florist today, but you could be a chain of florists in the future. You need to then think about, well, how do I put the right controls in as I grow my business to make that really, really just happen organically, A, with my team, and B, with the tools that I'm choosing. So making the right investments there to, as you scale, put it in place. And there are things like content access governance tools now on the market that allow you to then look across everybody in your organization and every piece of content you're sharing. Because the clients you work with today, in 2 years' time, you might have forgotten that you were sharing with them. And we've got an amazingly rich contractor and freelancer workforce in the UK. It's phenomenal. That means as a startup, you can hire the best talent wherever they are in the UK or the world to come and work on your projects, which is great. But then you have to think about the security of that. And as I offboard them off that project, what have they got access to? What did I give them access to over the last 6 months that we were working together? Or that client that we're no longer working with, have they still got access to those files? How can I ensure that I'm offboarding them? So content access governance is, again, a really important thing to think about.
Because the cost can be so high. And I don't want to scare everyone. I feel like a typical journalist up here telling all the scary stories. But I interviewed a lady a couple of years ago who ran an interiors business and not an obvious target for a cyber attack. And not only did she say it was the most traumatic day of her life, and she's given birth a number of times, but she said it was, it nearly brought the business down. And, having to explain to all her clients, and these were really high-end clients in the hospitality business. And she said, it nearly brought both her and the business to its knees. Anya, when this happens, it can be absolutely catastrophic for a business, can't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you talk about fines for breaches versus losing your business overnight, and it's just so avoidable now, without massive costs. And, so it shouldn't be a barrier for SMBs for success. It should be just a fundamental part of continuing your success and continuing your trust. And these are two examples of where you've kind of got high-touch services between interiors and florists. You lose that trust with your customer, you're not getting them back. And we know customers leave, and there's not that loyalty that we have anymore around retail or lifestyle services such as those. So, yeah, massively crucial, I think, in future success. And the confidence knock that small businesses get from such a breach, and where do they go from there? How do they pick themselves back up? How do you rebuild? Your brand is everything, and as I said, a small investment, it's not massive, and it can be massively impactful.
And Brian, I want to get your thoughts on this too, but I'm going to get a roving mic out into the audience because I'm aware I'm hogging the limelight here. So does anyone have any questions? Got one hand here. Do we have any more behind me? There's a lady towards the back there, and then we'll come to you in the front row too. If you could just tell us, if you'd like to, your name, where you're from, and let us know the question.
Hello, my name is Hannah, and I work for a fairly large corporate organization, and we have our own AI systems that we use from third parties, and it's very secure. But in terms of small businesses, apart from having security, what other tools can they use? Obviously, it depends on the type of business and what the priorities are, but is there one tool that you would sort of recommend?
Perhaps we'll go down the line and each you can give one kind of top tool for SMEs. So is this specifically in relation to AI? Yes, okay. Brian?
I mean, it really does depend, and we've spoke about this earlier on, is what open applications are you currently, as the business, using at the moment? What's going to work with those applications? Most customers in here, in the room, will be either Google, Microsoft or Apple users. So it's about making sure that you kind of look at the tools that you're currently using at this moment in time and where it really makes sense, particularly for small business. Again, there is lots of off-the-shelf applications that are out there. But back to the point that I was trying to make at the very beginning, every single choice you make, there has to be a return of investment. So it's just making sure that when the small businesses are looking at, what impact is it going to make for themselves, their customers, their workloads, their applications, making sure that they're taking that decision wholeheartedly and knowing where they're going to be.
Thank you, Brian. Anya?
Yeah, I agree with everything Brian said. And look, today, any amount of the thousands available off the shelf, there'll be another 1,000 tomorrow. So to pick one, I just couldn't. But again, think about what increases your efficiencies, what reduces your resource, and what increases your revenue. And again, that integration and flexibility for scale is critical when you're making those considerations.
Can I just add one very specific? I know I'm a journalist and you didn't ask me the question, but Otter AI has changed my life. And I know it would because I do lots of long-form interviews, and I used to transcribe them myself, and it would take me 3 to 4 hours to transcribe an interview. Otter has changed my life and my productivity levels. Shh, don't tell my boss. And it's just been absolutely brilliant. And the summarising and all of those things, I might be, you might all know about Otter and be using it religiously, but it genuinely has changed my life. How about you, Andy?
I'm a fan of Otter.
Okay.
I worked with Sam, who runs a company, a little while ago. Great product. I'll give you two, because you asked for one. One quick one, Reclaim.AI, great for AI calendar management. If you have to focus as a small business on the things that are really important to your business, that one will help you to reorganize the rest of your week around it, keeping client meetings protected. So if you are worried about your time management, check out Reclaim.AI. And then one I'm working on, selfless plug, is an AI-powered search tool. It's called Dropbox Dash. We've only just announced it. And that allows you to connect all of your different information silos and ask questions against your content wherever it lives on whichever platform it's on there. So again, that whole thing about if I need to find a piece of information quickly, and we all do, it's causing huge distractions to us. It's a tool that helps you to do that.
Thank you very much. Besnik, it can't be one of yours. I know he's just broken my rule, but...
No, to be honest, I wanted to ask the audience here because, like, how many... Are you guys, how many of you are B2B versus B2C? If you're B2B, can you put your hands up?
Oh.
So and B2C, I assume the rest. Okay, mostly B2B here. Because I think it's important that when you're doing your selections of what you use is who's your customers and what's the purpose behind the tools that you use. Because a lot of people can be misled and you end up investing in a tool that you're just going to be wasting a lot of time and money. And for me, for instance, just for and a lot of people I know, and how many people are using ChatGPT right now? Great. And what about the paid version? Okay, a lot less. So for instance, one of the things that we've had in our companies, we offer paid for all of our team members, period. Let's start to basics, for instance. So that's the first thing I'm just going to suggest is you've got to be using it for everything. Very simple. I know there's a lot of other tools out there, but one to just sort of has become a nature of habit is that.
When you say use it for everything, what do you mean?
I mean, for literally everything. From proofreading your client negotiations and ideation, perhaps, to all the way to, hey, how can I do some data analysis? If you're using the reasoning, some of our, 4.0, now there's a new, deep research that they've released, which is on the paid version, for instance. Like, you'd be astonished the level of analysis. You're getting FP&A level financial advice here. So if we're talking about costs and access to, corporate resources that SMBs just simply don't have, you need to begin there. So that's my first tool. And others would be like, when you're selecting tools, they don't always have to be net new. You have to look at how innovative are the existing businesses, like, you mentioned it in Dropbox, and they're innovating in the AI of search, for instance. But it's the same for like Salesforce. They released Agentforce, for example. And they don't tailor to just B2B. There's a lot of, how do restaurants leverage customer service and queries to better, solve a lot of the queries that might come from brick and mortar businesses, all the way to B2B. So I think focusing on the roadmap of existing systems that you guys are aware is another consideration I would add.
Some really useful advice there. Thank you very much. We had another question down at the front, please. Thank you very much. Any other questions in the audience? We know where we're going next. Lady in the front row, sorry, I couldn't see you behind me.
Good morning, my name's Gordon Smith from Lightning Leadership. I want to touch on a couple of points I've heard earlier, one from Brian in the keynote, and Anya, you picked up on a point as well I want to try and focus on. I've got a bootstrap business, limited funds, limited time, and Brian, you obviously know the number of AI products being released every week is in their hundreds, if not thousands. How do you cut through all that fluff to find the ones that are worth spending money on? Because if you're time poor and cash poor, you don't want to be wasting money.
Just before you answer the question, did you say there was a second question? Why don't we get them in?
Second question, that was down to the tech stack. And you mentioned about the rip and replace. It's not just the cost of rip and replace. When you're changing products, you've then got training to do because you're expelling the old system and you've got to train, if you've got any staff, at least yourself on the new product as well. And is there a way that you think, well, if I'm a micro business now, how can I prepare myself for that scale up that I'm not going to be doing a rip and replace because the products I'm using now aren't fit for purpose when I grow?
Great questions. Thank you, Gordon. So if you'd like to take the first one, and then perhaps Anya and Andy can answer the second.
It's not the easiest question. I'll be honest, there is thousands of products out there. And it's back to that risk and reward. Is it a new product? Is it going to make your business completely transformed? Is it going to give you, fine, go for it. What's the impact? Where does the data sit? How is it going to be used? All of those questions need to be asked. But because there are going to be lots of businesses that are created, there's also going to be a lot of those applications that might not be there in 12, 18, 24 months. So what is the plan after? What is your redundancy plan, so to speak, if that does go? What comes in and takes its place, and how can that emerge? Is it still open? Is it still scalable? Where is the data set? And those types of questions are the ones you kind of sit. But because things are so fast moving right now, I don't believe that anyone has all the accurate answers, unfortunately. That's not a bad thing, though. Like, it just means that there is pace, there is opportunity out there for small businesses to utilise them. But my goodness, it's a good place to be when we're fighting over how many applications are out there at this moment in time.
Besnik, did you want to add something?
I just want to ask, firstly, don't focus on all the hype and the fad that's coming from AI. What problem are you looking to solve?
Exactly.
Focus on that.
Spot on.
Really good advice.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Right, second question.
Yeah, future-proofing your investment. My advice is we've spoken about don't overthink it, but don't do it alone, right? You look at the investment and time that we spend as vendors with our channel community. So how we scale to the SME and the SME SOHO space is through our service providers, our resellers and our managed service providers. My advice to you now is invest time with those managed service providers that we create these solution sets so they're not point products. So we have done the work in the background to make sure that they're integrated, they're future-proof, they're cloud-based. So any of that upgrade, integration and enhancements can be done. And a lot of the times certainly with the Cisco stack that we're selling through managed service providers, it's off-site integration, so you don't have to worry about it. So it's not you ripping and replacing it, but we can also help with that training and retraining of the next gen, but that it won't be at a huge cost or time cost to you. So if you have any questions on who they are, myself and my team are here today as well to have that conversation, should you wish to.
Thank you. We'll grab a quick thought from Andy on that, but can we get the mic over to the lady in the front row, please? Because I want to make sure
There's a lady there as well in the pink, I think.
Cool.
Should we take them both at once?
Hi, my name's Sam Daly. I help businesses to streamline and automate their business by building the tools they need to run and manage it. So this sort of talk is very exciting for me. I love hearing the fact that you're talking about Reclaim, Zapier and stuff like that in your business. I'd love to hear, or like you guys to sort of name drop some of the other top tools that you guys use in your business in terms of either like productivity, communication or something like that.
Thank you very much. Can we also get the other question in the front row, because I'm desperate to fit it in, and if we don't stick to timings, it all goes horribly wrong. So thank you very much. Who would like to take that question? Besnik?
Well, yeah, I mean, I could. I think everyone else could add here. I mean, ask ChatGPT, because what depends what you're trying to solve for the particular use case. Like, again, every industry sometimes will have different usage. For instance, we use SmartSuite a lot, for instance, the equivalent, because it integrates everything for productivity. So SmartSuite is one of our most core I wouldn't say CRM, I'd say more to do with the operations of productivity. So SmartSuite would be mine.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm afraid we're going to have to cut you there, but perhaps we can have a quick chat in the break afterwards. Lady in the front row over here.
Hello,
Hi.
can you hear me?
We can.
Hello, so everyone can see me. I'm Vivian. I walk around with a big sign. Please come find me after. I'm asking from a B2C perspective. I'm the founder of an organization called Project Cheerleader, and I'm working to develop an app that helps people connect their unique core values to their daily actions. Now, the type of data I gather is unconventional. I walk around and I talk to people in the streets and map what it is they say. I do quizzes, I do responses. It's pretty whimsical. I'm trying to understand, as a creative with limited knowledge of technology, what can I implement at the beginning of my journey, because I'm moving from 0 to 1, to make the most of this qualitative data that I'm getting so I can use it when my platform is ready to launch.
Amazing. Thank you for the question, and we've got 7 seconds to answer it. Andy, I feel like you're the data guy.
Love it. So I think as you gather those sound bites, which are really important, and I love the fact that you're doing that, it's excellent. I listen to customers all the time. It's really important to me as well to have that passion and feedback. I'd say, take advantage of transcription, take advantage of recording every single one of those, bringing them in, categorizing them. So you're transcribing them, you're categorizing those conversations, come up with your own kind of framework, because it's you. So you need to be able to have it work with you. Keep that information I would say, keep it, don't make it complicated. Don't make loads of databases around it. Just keep it really simple in folders around those themes. And then as you grow your business and find the right market fit for where you want to go next, you've then built your own system that you can then take there. And you saved all that time, as we heard earlier, from using Otter AI to help with that transcription. You saved all that time from manually doing that and trying to remember it, because you've spoken to hundreds of people. And then actually you can then kind of search for that because you'll have tagged it properly to find the right quotes for the right moment for the right people that you want to work with.
Great response. Thank you, Mandy. I feel like we're on the payroll for Otto. I promise that we're not. I'm afraid that's all we've got time for, but perhaps you can grab these guys in the break afterwards. Thank you for all your fantastic questions, and thank you to our panellists, Besnik, Andy, Anya, and Brian. Now, give them a big round of applause, everybody. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. They're now going to make their way back to see Ollie, who's waiting in the wings to give them another grilling backstage. Just a reminder of our next keynote, which is in the main studio here very shortly with serial entrepreneur Shah Wasmond, which will be followed with a panel on the hybrid hustle. And I know it's a hot topic at the paper as it is elsewhere. Don't forget, we also have our interactive breakout session with Tom Batchelor on accelerating growth, a key topic that's emerged from this conference and others. And that's at 12:05. If you're watching online, just head to the What's On panel now, and that will give you all the information that you need. Now, Ollie, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. Thank you for that, Hannah. Raising the tech temperature. It's been getting hotter and hotter.
Classic Ollie Barrettism.
Well, don't worry. I've got more where that came from, and it'll just have to be tolerated by my next three brilliant guests. If you're tuning in live, thank you for your questions that have been coming through. I've been keeping my beady eye on those. So let us continue with Anya from Cisco. Very nice to see you.
Hello.
How are you? Welcome back to Elite Business Live. Thank you for all of your support. We started our day with Joseph Valente, who's a plumber originally. You're a bit of a plumber in a way, aren't you?
We're known for the plumbing. That's right. Our heritage is absolutely the plumbing. Our core value is connecting the unconnected, and that still is inherent to how we do business and how we show up.
Because we're in this fascinating scenario now, because of all these scrappy startups and scale-ups, right? There is a perception that much can be got for free. So when a company's thinking, okay, so how do I prioritize what to pay hard-earned cash for that's going to help the business thrive and keep us safe? How do you help them order their thoughts on that?
Yeah, again, I spoke about it in the panel just there. It's don't do it alone and don't do it unguided. As a vendor, we scale to the SMEs through our channel community who are enabled, educated and primed to have those conversations to make sure that your investment is secured, future-proofed and is the right investment for that point of time for that business. There's absolutely a plethora of free technology available, but if the fundamentals aren't there, what good is that and how future-proof is that?
It is those foundations. Much bigger topic, the role that you, and we're grateful for it, and other large companies play in supporting an ecosystem.
Yes.
What have you learnt about that? Because in our opinion, at Elite Business Live, you do it well. What have you learned that you could share with others?
Well, partnership really develops and enables that creativity of thought. I don't think any one person or any one company can do it all cradle to grave. Certain people will try and say they do. Look at Cisco in the AI boom, right? How do we add on? How do we layer? How do we build our ecosystem? How do we acquire? How do we, do our R&A around that? So it's just critical to the success, I think, in how we think differently. And how we deliver differently for the future.
Yeah, well, you've got a great job, I have to say. I mean, it's a huge part of the business in terms of small and medium-sized businesses. Very grateful to you, Anya Rogers, for everything that you're doing in the UK. Thank you. Very nice to see you.
Take care.
Okay, well, let's keep rolling with Dropbox, the mighty Dropbox. Very nice to see you. Andy Wilson. Good to see you. Welcome back, hot off the stage. And just paint us a picture with Dropbox. Presumably, you have colleagues globally.
I do. There's 2,000 of us around the world. In fact, my team's based from everywhere from Australia, Tokyo, to the UK, Ireland, and then over to the US as well.
Because there's a sort of narrative in certain countries, naming no names, of, their country first. So when you're hiring tech talent, where are you looking?
We're looking everywhere, really. We are a remote-first company, so our approach is virtual first. That means that we want to hire the best talent wherever they are. And we kind of want to live our visions. We make products that are designed for people to work remotely. So in order to do that, that's how we work. So it means
give us a tip, because we've got a session coming up on the hybrid hustle in a minute at Elite Business Live. A tip on building culture, even though people are thousands of miles away. Something you've learned.
Oh, wow. Well, there's one thing is that firstly, you've got to really make time to be intentional in that in-person time. So for us, that means we get together as a team. So my teams get together once a quarter. Yes. So we make sure we invest in that. But also, it's also making sure that you have that clear kind of social time at the beginning of a meeting. So it's the simple things like having the right icebreaker so you can get to know your remote colleagues more easily. And that will then build that rapport, making sure you have those regular management one-on-ones and also looking at where are the projects you can encourage cross kind of pollination between different teams and cross-functional working so that you can build your network within your own company, because that's obviously going to help for the company to be much more together.
So in a way, although Dropbox is a multi-billion-dollar company, in a way you're the challenger, aren't you? You're surrounded by these, like $100 billion companies, right?
Absolutely.
So what do you say to other challengers about how they go head-to-head and win against some of the world's most famous companies?
I think the big thing there is think about the focus that you can bring to your business, because that's the advantage. You can really hone in on an amazing target group and you can do some pretty fantastic things. Yes. And that's what's going to differentiate you, actually, because a lot of bigger companies are going to try and be lots of things to lots of different people. You can actually be much more precise about what you want to be, know your target, really hone in on them, and be fantastic at doing that. And that's what's going to help your business to grow.
Yeah, first class. Andy Wilson, that is, from Dropbox. Thank you very much indeed. Good to see you. Fantastic. So we're rattling through in our sort of second go of questions. Come and join us, Besnik Vrellaku.
Pleasure.
Thank you very much indeed for your thoughts. Now, your business, salesflow.io.
That's correct.
You got us thinking on the main stage about really using, in your words, ChatGPT quotes for everything.
Yeah.
Okay. How do we tread that line so we're not becoming indiscreet because all of a sudden we've shared something which frankly should have stayed confidential? Because everything doesn't mean everything.
Well, I think you just have to be responsible for yourself, right? As business owners and departments, is just, providing a policy and a guideline for how people should be using that, right? Ultimately with your team and beyond. So I think it's like anything else in your business. How should you be using Excel? How do you share that with others? It's almost no different.
So let's have that as an example. And forgive me if I'm asking a non-technical question, but I've got a database of clients or prospects. Can I share that with ChatGPT? Is there a mode I have to engage? How do I do that with another LLM perhaps safely so that AI helps me interrogate it and see where the heat map might lie for prospecting? Because I don't want to share information that I will later come to regret.
No, absolutely. I mean, that's down to, your trust and belief that ChatGPT's policy and what they do is matching to your expectation. Because I think there's a lot of companies out there. Like, for instance, if you're in fintech or insurance or health tech, patient data, for example, then I would be very wary. And I'd say, look, either have a on-premise solution where you can control your data. So, talk to your technical leads that know that. But if you're, like a lot of non-sensitive customer data, then I think I wouldn't really worry too much about that.
So that is a really reassuring response that I think is actually very empowering. So Besnik Vrellaku, thank you very much indeed.
No, thank you, sir.
Very good to see you. So that's salesflow.io on all things tech, but again, scaling up globally. So tips right from the trenches here at Elite Business Live.